What are you seeing in the supply chain?
Well, I'll give you a couple different things. The lead time data continues to come down. It moved up a little bit last week. It's back down again this week. What we see with the iPhone Pro is it's running about 8 days, and the Pro Max is also running 8 days. And at the same time last year, the Pro was about 13 days. So the Pro is quite a bit, better in terms of supply versus demand this year. The Pro Max is still elevated. So last year it was down to 1 day, which is effectively no delay. This year it's still 8 days. So, and then the iPhone 13 mini and the 13s, those are effectively no delay. So, we definitely see that supply coming up to meet demand. If anything, those Pros look like, even in a constrained supply environment, they're probably not, the demand's not as high as it was last year. So
right.
Still pretty good, though. The other thing I would say is, the checks on demand, at least what we can see, are still fine. I wouldn't say we see any warning signs there yet.
You do point out you think it's more difficult to get an accurate read on demand trends in the U.S. Why?
Yeah, the most of the U.S. phones are distributed through carriers, and so we have some data sources in China. We have some data sources in Europe that track point of sale data. That there's some official Chinese data that comes out, but in the U.S. there's nothing like that. So some people track receipts data, that sort of thing. We don't have access to that, but. Yeah, the U.S. has historically just been difficult to predict. And, of course, the U.S. is a very large part of December demand. That's when the U.S., over the course of the year, it's about 25% of demand. But this time of the year, it's closer to a third.
Yeah, Rod, it's Morgan. I realize the stock's down 2% today, but in general, it's been a pretty strong run for Apple this year. And there does seem to be somewhat of a cloud of bullish sentiment around the name as we go into 2022 as well. But you do have this neutral rating. You do have a price target of $142, which represents an almost 20% drop from where we are here in share price. So what do you see triggering that? Why aren't you convinced you continue to see a strong run next year?
Yeah, I would start off this answer by saying we're not sellers, and we have been sellers in the past. So we legitimately have a neutral rating on it. I think the reason, just to address the first part of that question, the reason the stock is rallying is kind of what I'm saying about demand. People are picking up that demand is okay. It's not, there's nothing going wrong with demand at this stage. And I think some professional investors, if you look back a month or two ago, they were more underweight short Apple. So some of those people may be closing shorts. We've also seen a lot of retail activity in the stock. So, those are the kind of things driving it here. I think what will crystallize this is if Apple follows the trajectory of other consumer electronics products that we're seeing. TV demand is weakening, home printers are weakening, PCs are weakening. So a lot of these things are beginning to weaken. Will Apple do the same? If it does, then our numbers are going to be closer to right. If it doesn't, then consensus numbers will be closer to right. But like I say, we still have a neutral because we're seeing this demand data that's not so terrible right now. So,
yeah, we're seeing the FAA push back on 5G rollout right now, just given the fact that there seems to be some conflict there with the technology and its interference with flights. How real is that risk, whether it's to Apple and the adoption of 5G handsets or to some of the other stocks that you cover as well, to that infrastructure actually becoming more meaningful more quickly?
Well, you've got an abundance of caution at a place like the FAA, and this is for particular elements of spectrum, not all of 5G. So I don't think there's much real risk to 5G technology rollout here. Okay. I think that you could see some of the spectrum bands delayed a little bit by that, and those are important spectrum bands, but in terms of the technology itself, no, I don't think there's any real risk there.